We're talking Coco. I'm in love with the Coco. That's an old reference.
I'm in love with the Coco.
I mean, Coco's the name of the game here. I'm also in love with hot chocolate. The plot twist is very,
it will
very
infect
good.
your enjoyment.
I completely called it. I was like, yeah, I got it. However, the extra depth,
especially with that reveal, because up until
it's
then,
very
I was
fun.
like, this is just kind of a saccharine, sweet Pixar movie with cool visuals. Beautiful looking movie. Like,
oh, cool! It's so great.
Worst comes to worst,
I'm such a sucker for neon. It's gross
and all the
how much I like it
and everything. Like,
I'll just say, for me personally, the premise
it's a little ridiculous.
This movie is almost like a test run for the better version in Kanto. For a movie with the plot of don't forget people, I am doing terribly.
I'm bad with names. It's gonna suck for all my relatives.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Narratives of Nonsense. We are friends talking about random and recent stories, newsworthy or otherwise. I'm Jordan, this boy.
I'm that Eldritch Blast and 5-string master, possessor of no rings and devourer of the onion rings.
It's been a while since you've been the devourer of the onion rings.
It's because you make everything an obligation, and it's just not special anymore, so I have to take it away from you.
I love onion rings.
Relationships aside. Anytime I want to do something fun, it's just got to be, you need to do this all the time. Can't just be a fun little treat, can it?
Our whole friendship is broken and built upon your devouring of onion rings. I
haven't had onion rings. I tater tots.
Well, that's where I'm at. I wish onion rings replaced French fries in pretty much every context, because they're just better.
It's always the thing with McDonald's. I'm like, when are you gonna get onion rings though? Like, when are we gonna
have they offered onion rings? That's something we should look up.
I've never in my lifetime
King has.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did at one point, because it's been around since like the 50s.
It doesn't matter if they did it in the 1950s. I need it now.
Yeah, right.
I ain't getting in the DeLorean to go get some McDonald's onion rings.
Look, a McRib is nice, but hear us out. We have needs. We're very needy people. Anyway,
we eat way too much fast food and we're tired of fries is what this really means.
Yeah, that's basically it. So we have some things. The big one, the meat and taters. It could be meat and onion rings of the episode will be the movie Coco. We watched that. My first time viewing it came out in 2017, and it was so funny because light insight into my life. I was at rehearsal. I mentioned that I had only seen it once, and like 5 of the 10-year-olds that I do dance rehearsal with chewed me out for having only seen it once. And I'm like, what? So I lost all my street cred with all of the non-teenagers that are just destroying me. The Gen after Gen Z just coming for my throat.
I'm sorry, but we had the real Pixar movies when I was a kid.
Yeah. Toy Story.
That too, not that one.
Yeah. No.
God, that must have been the weirdest thing if that was your first Toy Story.
Like Toy Story 4 or Toy Story 1.
Toy Story 4.
Just the ricochet of going through.
No, like if you just never watched Toy Story. Like you're just like an 8-year-old kid and that's your first experience.
Or even just having like Toy Story 1 now compared to other like 3D animated movies, given that's like the first big one. Like I imagine that in itself is a little bit of like a whiplash in just, wow, this movie looks old. Because like in some respects, I go back to that first one. I'm like, they did a good job in making sure they use toys, so it's plastic.
Yeah,
and like it fits the world.
But definitely the moments you see like the people.
Oh yeah, it's like, wow, this did age a little bit. No, it's weird. So we're talking Coco, and then we've got some uplifting news. We got some random holidays. We have all sorts of stuff. So. Jumping right into just this last week in general. Connor, how's your week been?
This is just grand. And got in a minor car accident, so my car's in the shop. I'm completely fine. It wasn't that kind of accident, but
Yeah, so last time we mentioned that there might be snow, and it came true. Yay. But Friday, the roads were, Thursday night, they were already starting to get a little bit rough. And goodness, Friday
I just
morning.
needed to make it one day and it would have been fine, but.
Yeah, everything's melted now.
Well,
for the most part.
I'm gonna get some newer tires now, at least, I guess, because it's like, well, may as well.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, if I'm already gonna throw the repair money at
it's great.
Yay. Well, aside from the car, which is in progress, but thankfully not too bad.
All right, week. Other than that, went climbing, went pretty well. We got a new set of problems on one of the walls at our gym, so that was cool.
Okay.
Finished Edge Runners on Netflix.
Okay.
Killer series, would really recommend. It's definitely not for the childs, but I never listened to that warning when I was a kid, so take from that what you will.
Is it PG-13 or R, but TV?
No, there's like pretty graphic, like violence and nudity.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Super R.
Yeah. I think it's technically more, or no.
MA,
yeah, R.
TVMA. I guess would be the
probably
the on-channel equivalent.
Can't remember if R you're allowed to. I think you're allowed to show nudity.
In R?
R.
Right?
Yeah. I'd say R then.
Yeah.
If it was on TV,
movie R, TVMA, or I don't know what.
What was I? I'm thinking that
UK version.
The one above R was
X.
Nah, there's like something else. It's like 17 and over.
NR is not rated. But
there was one other.
17 plus.
Point being, Edge Runners is really good. It's by Studio Trigger. They're awesome. Their animation style's sweet. The music's awesome. If you're at all interested in getting into the cyberpunk like tabletop game or anything like that, it's a really great little jumping off point, in my opinion. And it's 10 episodes, so it's not much of a watch at all. So
how long are the episodes? Like 30 minutes?
Like 20, 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah, that's not bad at all.
But it's a real tight, quick story. Matt Mercer is in it, so that's cool.
Always good.
Yeah, and he gets to use a certain accent of his I really like.
No,
we haven't gotten to see since like Critical Role season 2, so I was like,
oh yeah. Goodness. On this podcast alone, we were gushing about Vox Machina when that came back, or came out, or what have you, way early in the movie or show or whatnot. I loved it.
Oh yeah.
It was really fun. It was,
I'm just so happy it exists. But either way.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much my week.
Sweet. On the show front, I'm continuing Andor. I love it to death. It's very quickly turning into like my favorite Star Wars show, especially the live action stuff ever. I don't know if it'll beat Clone Wars, but there's a season 2, so it could.
From where I'm at, I still like Mando more, but that means a lot coming from me, so.
Well, how far have you gotten?
I'm up to like 5, but I was more referencing like, I'm the biggest Boba Fett mark in the world. Like, I don't have much objective, like, cred here. Like,
the Book of Boba Fett let me down. Well, the reason it let me down is because we didn't get to do Boba Fett all that much. We got Mando. Well,
the thing is though, it's like, that's not a problem to me, but I'm like, why didn't they do Book of Boba Fett first? And then go into Mandalorian? I feel like that would have been I understand this.
Like, that's the safer play, is go with the...
Well, no, I just think it's like, okay, we take Boba, we give him to give the shine to Mando, so it's like, that's like the classic wrestling thing. You get the old wrestler to kind of give him the rub, as we say, and then Mando gets set into his own thing. I'm not saying you literally release, because I wouldn't really work chronology wise, but I think that would have been a better thing, and then
for like a grand scale,
exactly. Instead of being like Mando, because Mando season 1 and 2, I love. So like, even it being more Mando is great. But like when I saw Book of Boba Fett, I'm like, I love Mando, but you said Boba Fett, and that's kind of my deal. So
no, I think
what's she gonna do?
I think Boba was handled very well for his slight appearance in Mando season 2.
Yes, I'd agree.
And that really sucks because his own show, it feels like he's sidelined.
And even outside of that, I don't really like his characterization that much in the Book of Boba Fett on top of everything.
I think one of the best interpretations that I really hold dear to how Book of Boba Fett went about was, we have a couple of different versions of Boba Fett. We have the expanded universe, original trilogy, books, comics.
Yeah.
Boba Fett is a badass. It's all of the like stereotype nerd. Let's overhype this side
your
character
lone wolf.
thing. Yeah, very much. And it was you pay enough credits, the job will be done. End of story.
You don't pay,
does not matter.
It's not good for you.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one kind of Boba Fett. And then when the prequels happened, to probably more than just a couple of people's dismay, we got a war orphan Boba Fett, where it's this lost kid in a world that he doesn't really know all too well, but he's like dipped his toes in following his father's footsteps with Django, who frankly was fantastic in his own right. Honestly, the bounty hunter game is just following Django in the same vein of badass bounty hunter does badass bounty hunter things, kind of like with what Boba Fett was in the old expanded stuff. So you got to see kind of that through line eventually come about, but you have a little bit of he's torn on how he gets there as like a teenager with Clone Wars and whatnot. So that's the other Boba Fett is Clone this Wars like Boba. It's like this broken family man thing happening.
Is your family though? Can a clone be your family?
Yes. At least that's that conclusion. And then we get Book of Boba Fett, where they saw both of these and went, no, we're going to do a different Boba. Like they almost
basically just nega Jabba.
Yeah, they hint at the family thing with Tusken tribe stuff after he got out of the pit. But that's like the extent of it, and then everything else is almost more Mandalorian honor, which is kind of there, but it's been done better in older stuff and expanded universe things.
Yeah,
it just got this
especially
weird
like
thing.
KOTOR 2, because like that's really the reason I like Mandalorians and Boba in the first place.
Is all the
all the stuff with
the
KOTOR and Revan and
yeah,
that shit was so sick. So
yeah, no,
anyway,
it's very weird.
Andor.
Oh my god, it makes the original trilogy look like just a complete fairy tale fantasy. Like it is the show that I think Rogue One wanted to be, and it touches it, but doesn't get the full breadth. It's the transition of here's this gritty, rebellions are hard, rebellions are ethically gross, unfortunate, that kind of thing. And it's something that has to have like the forcing of the hand in order to make a rebellion. And it's not afraid to take risks and have themes, and it's really well tied into what Rogue One is, which is really crazy. Like even just the word choice for monologues or just individual characters will say the same phrase of thing that kind of represents that journey of climbing yourself out of the pit of this fascist empire thing. It's incredible, frankly. That's all I can say. Absolutely, please watch Andor. We need to get you caught up. If it says something, my mom, who is not at all like super Star Wars nerd type of thing, I told her to watch it. She watched like 1 or 2 episodes when they first came out, but then dropped the ball for a bit. She ended up spending like her entire Friday. She has like full shit, like 12, 14 hour shifts as a nurse. So alternating schedule of days. So her Friday she had off. She's getting ready for Thanksgiving because that's coming around the corner, and the house chores, what have you. And she binged pretty much the entirety of the show. I ended up visiting her after rehearsal during the week, and we're on episode 7, 8, something like that. We get to the end of episode 9. It's like 11:30. This woman wakes up at 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, typically. We're up super late. End of episode cliffhanger. I just look over at her. I'm go, just one more? Just one more? And she's like, Yeah, I had to push the button. So we went past midnight, just cruising through Andor. It's such a great show. Anyway, I love it. If it says anything, I got my mom to watch it, and she loves it too. She does not watch like that usually, I would say. No, I love it. Transitioning from that into kind of what other things happened in my week. I mentioned rehearsal. We're doing a show shortly after Thanksgiving. It's going to be Christmas themed, kind of built from the ground up. So lots of rehearsal time. We had a couple of our dancers that are starting to get sick. It's making the rounds. Like, one of us has been running a temperature, has the flu. All of us are wearing masks just because we need to make sure we can get through this show. So I'm hoping that I can make it through the week without dying. We're going to see how tomorrow goes, but that's where we're at. I'm a little exhausted. And then, I had a goodbye, farewell party for, another friend of mine in dance who, they are moving to Amsterdam, to be with their boyfriend of multiple years. So
nice.
that was really fun, wholesome, lots of catch up, and
a
little bit of bittersweet with it. But ultimately, like, now I have an excuse to go to Amsterdam.
Being a guy who just left a lot behind, I get it. You know,
Yeah.
gas to do her sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's tough. So, yeah, otherwise, pretty good week. This next week's looking good as well. I mean, goodness, Colorado's, it really was just that one snow day that messed you up, because
yeah, it was fine after that. Like,
everything's looking pretty good. This next week, it's supposed to be like 50s and 60s. Like, maybe one day hits the 40s, little bit of clouds, but otherwise back to pretty much straight sunshine. Like, it's a whole, god dang it. Yeah, great stuff. So, other, like, great news stories, things, something that's a little bit more personal specific, just cause it's really heartwarming to talk about and to hear. This last week, there was a mother named Viola that's out in Missouri who last week would have been the due date for her child bringing a new life into the world. Back on October 23rd, however, 3 weeks early, she ended up going into labor, and her 10-year-old daughter ended up helping with that delivery. Her name is fortuitously named Miracle. So she really lives up to it. So she starts going into labor, or her mom goes into labor. The 10-year-old Miracle calls 911. She's just back and forth with the dispatcher, Scott, who starts walking her through the delivery process, making sure that her baby sister ends up, turning out okay, especially with, 3 weeks early that starts getting into very nervous territory. She remained totally calm, professional the whole way through, just like, all right, gotta get in, get it done. And shortly after the delivery, they ended up having, whatever, paramedics and whatnot comes by, takes them to the hospital, make sure that everything's all clean and good. And, they actually ended up getting her, a number of different, like, goodies and trinkets. There's like a pin that some of the EMTs, if they deliver a baby on their round, they end up getting this pin. So they gave her one of those. They gave her a notebook. She actually got to meet the dispatcher that walked her through the whole process. It was just really, really sweet. So we wanted to talk about that. Transitioning into kind of the more big picture news, things that are kind of sustainability and interesting developments, that kind of stuff. It turns out that we might have a new alternative meat on the market, and it is lab grown meat. So the way that this works is basically you take a cell culture from a live animal, and then you continue growing it in this case in particular, it's with a company called Upside Foods, where they put this cell replicating meat in a stainless steel tank. And it's something that actually went so far as being FDA approved Now, given lab-grown meat is something that is newer, it's kind of like a joint venture oversight between the Food and Drug Administration and the Department of Agriculture. So now that it's passed FDA, it's going over to the Department of Agriculture for final approval, but we might start seeing that pop up as another option, which I think is very interesting. I feel like just by the nature of it, it has to be a more efficient, like cleaner process than just outright raising poultry, as an example. This example in particular is for chicken culture meat product. I don't know what you want to call it, but I will call it chicken. Look, I mean, when we have things like vegetarian, Beyond Meat, etc. options, I'm very interested to see where this falls in that kind of ethic classification or lifestyle choosing. So yeah, as of right now, it is something where the FDA, they went through, they didn't like have any further questions. They were very, thorough as far as the process and, you know, making sure that everything is good. And
I can't wait.
They're satisfied with the data.
Mutants.
Yeah, there we go. Just
it's all those dirty West Virginians.
You know what? You know what it'll be? It's far more sinister. We end up just getting the full human-sized chicken to fight Peter Griffin. So this is the step we need to make full human-sized chicken to fight like the cosplayer Peter Griffin. That guy. We're one step away. We're one quick alternate route in a different universe.
Oh, they can do it on like one of the like YouTuber boxing things.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, that's it. That's the ticket. That's the moneymaker. Yep. And this is how we found and ran our own lab-grown meat business.
Always got my mind on money.
There it is.
Money on my mind.
Absolutely. So, going from that into wildlife safety.
It's our safety too, really.
Yeah. Over in Montana, this is something that is kind of more of a one of those continuing trend type of things. They were having trouble back in the 80s with one of their highways, Highway 93, where they kept having problems where you're hitting whatever indigenous wildlife that's bouncing through the area. They need to kind of expand their operations and the like. One of the answers was they were thinking, hey, what if we just add more lanes? We'll make it, 5-lane highway, lots of space, so that way you can try to like swerve or maneuver. And they ended up getting pushed back because it runs through a Indian reservation, specifically the Flathead Indians. And from there, they got a little bit more creative. They're like, okay, look, it's something where you don't really want this. You get like the final veto, so let's work around this. How can we problem solve to make it so that traffic's a lot safer? It's better for us in the vehicles. We don't want car accidents. No one ever wants car accidents. We can say that from first-hand experience with this last week. And then it's especially more beneficial for, wet wildlife. So the way they ended up going about it is they started talking to the local tribes about, what knowledge they have for the local wildlife, what kind of pathways they take, that kind of thing. And they ended up, back in like 2000, started building a new methodology for these animals to pass through. So they ended up making 42 different wildlife crossings. Some are going under, some are going over, just kind of littered throughout the whole endeavor. In 2015, they ended up doing a more proper study of this just to see, okay, how successful was this? Did it work? Did it not? And they found that it reduced animal collisions on the highway by 71%, which is like massive difference given how much of a kind of endeavor this whole thing was. And, it kind of shows the power in blending the local knowledge as well as kind of taking into account their values in design, that kind of weird blend of, okay, where does culture and pragmatism come together to make something good? And to further this, because it's something where, you know, we as humans need to be very cognizant of how much impact do we make on the local environment. It's something where we are seeing like per year, because they have cameras in the different crossings, they keep track of how much is going through back and forth. They are finding that there are 22,000 different animals that are using these crossings each year. So it's something where it's not just we set it up and then we just shrug and go, oh, well, all right, now what? It's something where it is both practical and environmentally conscious, which I think is 10 out of 10. We always want more of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Sweet. So, going from that into another kind of shift in thinking for animal safety, conscious design. There was a really great story where there was a kitten who basically caused the Munchkin, packaging, like the company itself deals with like sippy cups. You know, it's a very specific thing that they do. So, what ended up happening is they heard about a small kitten. This would have been last year that this kitten was found. It was rescued. It apparently had the Munchkin packaging, for, you know, one of those cups, wrapped around its neck. And as the kitten kept growing, it started to become a real problem. It's kind of similar with like sea turtles and straws and that, and like
the one that got all,
and like a 6-pack. Yeah, it's growing into it and it can't deal with it or get out of it. So it's just slowly causing more problems for the cat. Fortunately, this kitten was rescued by, an individual in particular that works with a young animal rescue group organization. They ended up reaching out to Munchkin in particular, and they're just like, hey, you know, here's what happened, just so you know. The response was incredible. One of the higher ups in Munchkin actually reached back out and, just full empathy, like going, hey, I have cats. I got you. They ended up covering all of the medical expenses involved. They ended up giving $2,500 to the organization itself for their rescue efforts, and then turning it around into the company. They completely rethought their packaging. So they did a whole bunch of testing, literally hundreds of different design iteration type of things. And their new packaging is now 60 to 70% reused, recycled materials, completely non-plastic, animal safe. So if it's something where if somebody gets stuck in it, they can actually like get out of it. It'll break down. So it's not a longer term issue. One of the other things for making it more environmentally conscious is, instead of having, you know, to just glitter details of, you know, how to use instructions, they just slapped a QR code on it. So that saves just tons and tons of paper each year. Ultimately, like the big, incredible number associated with it is, it's about 645,000 pounds of plastic per year that is now no longer going into the ecosystem because of this,
the ocean.
And it started with a cat. just a small kitten that got its head stuck somewhere at some point. Also adding, the cat is fine. The cat is fine, healthy, happy. A year later, a year bigger. Kittens grow quick. I mean, goodness. It's very, very fun. Following that, over in Ukraine, because, you know, there's always stuff happening in Ukraine. This is on the uplifting side. Given all of the structural problems and damage caused with the invasion by Russia, there is a need to rebuild. My brain very much goes to kind of the whole rebuilding efforts that followed World War II. That's kind of what my brain associates with this. We've now have this massive fund that was set up by Andrew Forrest. He's the billionaire Australian mining fellow that ended up putting this whole thing together. It's something where he's been working with all sorts of different people. He ended up donating $500 million directly into it. The whole idea behind this fund is to, one, raise money for reconstruction efforts, but more in particularly, and this is what I think is really fascinating, for somebody that was working in a mining company, they've started to switch gears.
The last name is Forrest.
With the name Forrest, yeah. It's very funny to me. I think he should have been a lumberjack, but you know what? He found his stride. So,
the guy from Australia, very well known for many trees.
Oh yes, there
Australia, their trees, you know.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere. So Andrew Forrest ends up putting all this money in, and he's starting to shift focus into long-term sustainability and looking into becoming like a bigger player in the hydrogen game rather than just, outright fossil fuel, that kind of thing, which I think is really cool. With Ukraine in particular, because, things are broken. If it's broken, you gotta fix it. Putting this fund together, a big part of it is let's replace this older coal, gas, a little bit of nuclear infrastructure, and let's replace it with more modern tech and much more green and sustainable things. So this goes from energy and like telecommunication networks, that kind of infrastructure. It's a whole kind of shift. If we're going to rebuild it, let's rebuild it right. Right now it's something where there's estimates that this fund could go somewhere between $25 billion, and this is US dollars in particular as far as currency conversion stuff. People think it'll be worth somewhere between $25 billion and $100 billion, which is a huge difference as far as getting this back up and running. Right now, there's in particular for this article, they're estimating that the damage, like directly dealt to the infrastructure, is about $100 billion worth. But then the impact of that infrastructure not being available for use in the economy, like, has the longer reaching effect of about $750 billion worth of monetary loss to Ukraine. So at this point, every penny helps. And what better way of pushing for a better tomorrow than moving in with, the utmost cutting edge technology kind of thing. It's something that I think is really cool. So anyway, shout outs to that and continued efforts in making Ukraine a little bit better, especially in these latest days.
Yeah.
And then, finally, the last article that we wanted to talk about, a little bit more directly connected with Coco. There was a 95-year-old that was nominated as the best new artist in the Latin Grammys. This is, and I'm probably butchering the pronunciation.
I'm butchering the pronunciation.
Oh, yes. The person in particular, again, 95 years old, is Angela Alvarez, or Angela. Anyway, she's Cuban American. This woman did her first public concert when she was 90 years old. Talk about the definition of it's never too late to follow your dreams. For her, it was something where she would do songwriting and performing really only for friends and family. When she was growing up, she mentioned that in her household, she was very much discouraged from any kind of music pursuits of any capacity. So she would write and kind of sing in secret. She ended up sending her kids to America, something like back in the 60s, and then ended up following them here to the States. And then eventually she managed to make her way over to LA. One thing leads to another, when she gets the chance to record. I mean, it's kind of fascinating just following this person's life story. Absolutely look it up. But yeah, starting from 90 years old, at 95, you ended up winning a Grammy. What an appropriate title, that could be built. Just the Grammy for the Grammy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's the uplifting news for this week. Carrying from that into the holidays, it is World Hello Day. I wanted to start with that with Coco. We have very, Spanish, Mexican tied in roots with it. So hola as one of many hellos. I don't know how many ways to say hello that I know. I know there's English hello, Spanish hola, Chinese ni hao,
German's Guten Tag.
Guten Tag. I think that's the bonjour French. Yeah. There's a bunch. I mean, God, there's tons of languages on the planet, but aloha, Hawaiian. That's another one. Yo, Urban Dictionary.
Hey, how's it going, bud? That's Canadian.
Ah, there it is. Yeah, that's why you're here. Anyway, World Hello Day. It's kind of a little bit of celebration of language and just giving each other a nice greeting. Shoot, greetings is a hello. I don't know if we want to just call that another English.
Well, the beauty of English is its massive amount of redundancies.
Yeah, no kidding. So World Hello Day, the next holiday. This is in tune for us Americans here. It is Thanksgiving this coming Thursday, and we have the holiday today, Stuffing Day. Let's go! I love stuffing. I think it might be my favorite food in the Thanksgiving palette, other than maybe green bean casserole. I really do love whatever my grandma does.
All mixed in there. It's like stuffing and the green bean casserole and the mashed potatoes. Just kind of looped up in that.
I love mashed potatoes, but I don't usually think of mashed potatoes as like Thanksgiving specific.
What are you talking? You have to have mashed potatoes
no.
Thanksgiving.
No, I completely agree. However, I don't want to limit it to just Thanksgiving.
Obviously, I
need that
potatoes. Like mashed potatoes and rice are just happy foods.
Yeah, I just need it every other day is where I want it.
And a bunch of gravy.
Yes.
Can't forget the gravy.
Are you a brown or a white gravy?
Well, I think typically for this it would be brown gravy. White gravy is the only time I really do white gravy is on like chicken fried steaks and stuff, or like biscuits and gravy.
Okay.
That's really the only time I've ever used it. They don't really have it in Canada, weirdly enough.
Gravy?
No.
Oh.
White gravy. The thing we were just talking about.
Well, that's why I was like, wait a minute.
Obviously, they have gravy. That's kind of a big deal with poutine.
Okay, fair.
Pleb.
Look, I've been
white gravy in particular.
I've crossed the border into Canada once.
Wisconsin, it's like the same thing.
I've been to Canada once on a road trip. We ended up in Canada and then had to get back.
Uneducated, unknowing Americans. I swear, I gotta move back.
If there wasn't this whole the whole quarantine and pandemic stuff, I totally would have visited you. That was the only excuse.
Yeah.
I did get my passport. Like I was about ready.
Homie.
He didn't come down here. I was gearing up for it. It was happening.
I used to go fishing in Canada almost every year.
Nice. Yeah. Nah. We have one road trip, and that was about it. Moving on from that to other holiday destination and holidays. Up in Alaska, they have a very fun one. It is Alaskatalo. Or Alsacatalo as another one. So this is
Escalate.
This was described as the longest running, shortest holiday or shortest parade. Up in Alaska, but it's about a mythical creature that is Alaskan specific. It's a combination of a walrus and a moose. So you just
Moose
have,
body and horns with walrus head and tusks.
yes,
So you know.
just
Feel free to play with it, though. I'm sure they don't care.
it feels like it should be in D&D. Like there's so many,
Well, I mean, that's
like,
the beauty, though.
like a jackalope.
We're just gonna make it. And
Yeah, we need to make
Yeah.
it. Honestly, this is now on my like
just give it,
to-do
like,
list.
stag movement.
We
and some
went
kind of special
through-
tusk attack.
Oh my gosh, we scoured the first page of Google in 3 different searches to try to find D&D stats
and
for
we
this.
like partially even scrolled down.
Yeah,
Okay,
a whole range of
It was an
research.
intense investigation.
Not a stat. Disappointed in you, D&D community.
How
Come
dare
on,
you make me do
TTRPGs.
my own work?
Yeah, we got to make this. This needs to be homebrewed. It needs to be spread with the world. Alaska Talo. Anyway, so this is
Alaska.
the idea of the holiday is even better. It's something where it's meant to kind of celebrate the humor, the silliness of the Alaskan folk communities. It really is great. The parade, literally, it was describing the parade as being one block in an alley.
Like it's not like a
that's it.
city block, like a block of mains. It's just an alley they go down.
It's-
Like, all right, we're good.
It's like, all right, yeah, let's go, Talo, let's go. So yeah, I need to see this. It's something where my family like talked about, okay, like, can we get to Alaska as a holiday destination at some point in our lives? So if such a thing ever occurs, I might have to go so far as to push them to have it around Thanksgiving, just so I can witness what this is, because it was so fun to read about. So Alaska Talo. It's a moose walrus. Oh man. Adding to that oddness with some more, it's also Odd Socks Day. So anybody that's got the patterned, very fun, colorful socks. I mean, goodness, my mom has just the most insane compression socks for when she's on the floor for nursing. Just as another thought tangent. I don't really have that many.
Mine are all black. There's the big $10 packs from Walmart.
They're all black. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, why would you want white socks?
Most of my socks are white.
Well, I guess we know who tomorrow culture they are.
So for me, black socks I usually associate with
I just think
dress.
they look better.
But I also have to credit you with there's the tried and true, the ancient poem that black socks, they never get dirty.
This
The longer
too,
you wear
I
them,
also just
stronger
thought
they
of it.
get.
All my pants are black, pretty much.
Oh, so they match.
So that's actually, I was just
Doubles
thinking,
down.
why do I? I'm like, because you don't want to wear white socks with black pants. It looks really odd.
That's fair.
And I am not Michael Jackson, so pulling that off is not my forte.
So Odd Socks Day, another very fantastic random holiday, False Confession Day. This is for you to go about your pranking ways. If you've got a gesture that you gotta test out.
See, and what Jordan didn't know is I told him I loved him earlier today, but he didn't know that I already knew this was the holiday.
We record on Sundays, you jerk. Anyway, so it is False Confession Day.
This is why
If
we
you
don't
want-
have a
if you wanna
relationship,
do-
because somebody torpedoes all my bits.
So if you want to get away with lying, stay legally sane is one of the most important things. Don't confess to anything really bad. One of the things it brought up was Salem witch trials.
Oh,
If you confess to being a witch,
I confess to making up the conspiracy that West Virginia is not really a state.
there we go. Yeah, there it is. So False Confession Day, that's another one. And then, the last one, World Television Day, which I think is very appropriate as a holiday given we're talking Coco. In Coco, our wonderful movie of the time, one of the bigger things of this movie is the fact that there's this kid Miguel who is just obsessed with 1940s, 50s era soap opera, music star, pop star, soap opera, what have you, international sensation, Senor de la Cruz.
Like, are you trying to remember the name or want to come up with another title?
I was going for more adjectives. That was the goal. that was my objective.
There's a thesaurus. There's a thesaurus glued up over here. He's cheating.
Yeah, it's the internet. So, Coco. We're talking Coco. It's been
the movie.
It's been out a while. I'm in love with the Coco. That's an old reference. I'm also in love with hot chocolate, but that's beside the point. So Coco came out in 2017. It's Pixar, Disney, what have you. Filmmaking wise, I really like the movie. It's very pretty. It had every excuse, and it went for it for just like the color palettes, I think are probably the strongest thing going for this movie, especially the fact that they're kind of embracing the Mexican culture, heritage, mythos, what have you. It's completely ingrained into the plot and the world building. It was very, very fun as far as kind of incorporating the holiday of Dia De Los Muertos just straight in. I think that's a phenomenal achievement. The songs and the acting as well, I think it was very well performed. Going from that, I will say songwriting wise, I don't think it's one of the stronger points of this movie.
Yeah, I'd say it's hand-fisted and can very much border on overly schmaltzy at points.
Yeah, I think the best part of the music is, for one, it is integrally tied into the plot.
I wouldn't want
I think
it
that's
to not
great.
Be there.
Yes, and for one song in particular, it is incredibly well constructed as far as foreshadowing how it's used, the way that it's been performed in the movie, because it comes up more than once. I think that was really impressive. That's the song "Remember Me." I honestly, I think that's the best out of the music for this film. From what
I'd certainly listen to the soundtrack over something like Rent or like Cats.
Yeah. It's something where, I think one way we put it is it's like, we enjoyed the music, but it's not necessarily going on the playlist. Like, it gets in the liked category. Like, we give it the heart, but unless I'm literally, like, in my case, I rehearse with younger kids. If I needed to add it to a young kids soundtrack playlist with other Disney things, that's where
just Weird Al.
Yeah, there you go. So that's where I would put it. And then otherwise, what the plot, it was very, very fun. One thing that I don't think is a strike against the movie is, about halfway through, I paused, I went to go grab something to eat. I went downstairs and I'm like, okay, here's my prediction of where this is going to go. And not to toot my own horn, I completely called it. I was like, yeah, I got it. However, the way that that's revealed and kind of the extra depth, that was the part that was really surprising to me. And I think that illustrates that it was really well done. It's well put together in that sense, as well as, again, thematically, the music, it's something where it's very well constructed. Ultimately, I do think this is worth the watch.
I really think, especially with that reveal, that because up until
it's
then,
very
I was
fun.
like, this is just kind of a saccharine, sweet Pixar movie with cool visuals, and then that happened. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, like, oh, okay, like edge of the seat. All right, let's go. That's something that I think really changes how enjoyable the movie is. Otherwise, it would just be like a neat, call it a day. Ultimately, I do think it's worth the watch. Would I rewatch it? Yeah. Like, you don't even have to put a gun to my head. I think this is a perfect movie for, on in the background, or like you're flipping through channels, airplane. Yeah. Just something that is just a nice feel good get together. If it's something where you celebrate Dia de los Muertos, like, have it as one of multiple different movies. I
know, I used to play in a D&D campaign. They had a DM had a daughter, and she would just play this all the time in the living room. I remember sitting there beforehand with her, just watching like parts and parts of it.
Yeah. There's also it's something that you have a little bit more context of. Is there is another Dia De Los Muertos movie that came out a couple of years before this.
CG animated.
Mm-hmm. I end up writing it down. What was it?
Book of Life.
Book of Life.
And I don't actually know that the studio was that made it, but I'll be honest, I kind of prefer that one to this. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't. That's not like an objective like this movie's better, but I definitely preferred more of its take on like. The one thing I kind of had an issue with Coco is like, I just finished watching or getting through Fantasy High. It's a Dimension 20 live play podcast. And they had a really cool thing about like, you know, your family, they have a lot of different versions of family. Like one of the characters is adopted. Another of the characters kind of ends up not becoming estranged from their family at one point. And it was the cool idea of like a lot of family structures are like worth saving, even though the strife, but sometimes like you pick your own family and move on from there.
Yeah.
Like if you can't fix that kind of stuff. And I think, it's not to say that Coco's message is bad or whatever, but it was very, by the book standard. I felt like it kind of felt
very
where
traditional.
I felt like sense. With Book of Life, it was a little bit more of a, like kind of a romantic, like, I don't even really want to say competition between two characters, but I kind of enjoyed the way of how they handled it a little bit more of exploring different family dynamics and the pressures that puts on people. Whereas with Coco, it's very around Miguel and his struggle and things, which is not to say it, but, or like not to say it's bad, but it was something I liked more about Book of Life.
Yeah. And I think we'll have to touch back on the themes because I have more thoughts on it as well, but we're going to enter some spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen it and you want to get out here,
these
go
are
watch
like
it.
Actual spoilers.
Oh yeah. Oh, we are going hard.
Like this is the one where I'm like,
this one, the plot twist is very,
it will
very
infect
good.
your enjoyment if you don't watch it first.
All right. So, plot. Miguel. We have a young
Miguel
teenager. What is he like?
I
don't remember what age
12,
he is.
Yeah, like
somewhere in that range. Part of a very large family in Mexico. It's something where it's him, his parents, he's got like a brother and a sister, his grandma,
uncle,
his great grandma. Yes.
Great grandma.
Great extended family, that are all, this was something that I thought was really funny. They're all, cobblers. They're shoemakers. We work in the shoe business, so that was like I did the Leo DiCaprio meme or whatever.
I actually used to fix shoes when I was like 13, 14. Yeah. I worked at a shoe repair place, so.
Yeah, so that was a very fun surprise. That
weird amount of relation there I had with old Miguel.
Yeah, so Miguel, his whole shtick is he loves music. He can't not love music. Yeah, he has a little section of the house, like the top corner of the attic, that he's built a shrine to pop culture sensation Senor de la Cruz, who's this singer, songwriter, guitarist that is actor. Yeah, the full 9 yards. I mean, he's more than a triple threat. He's all over the world stage. Everybody knows Senor de la Cruz, and he's got his own little like pop shrine, and he's hardcore fangirling about it. And in the privacy of this small corner, he'll play and practice and sing.
Yeah, and he actually learns from like old like movies of his. Or
videos he literally watches
that was
to see the hand motions, to mimic it one for one. He really is passionate about music, and his family despises musicians. It's full Footloose kind of territory.
They are his Juliet.
Yeah.
the track.
And it has a very fun montage where like the grandma will go so far as to start beating up mariachis, like playing in the street, just passing by kind of thing. Just no music, none of it, no. So following this,
well, and the story behind that is I believe it's actually Coco. It was left behind by a mariachi whose daughter, who had a daughter with her. Which I believe is
no. So so the family tree, because this is for Dia de los Muertos, they have an ofrenda, which is an offering. They have a string of rose petals that kind of leads the way for ancestors to come back from the realm of the dead to come and say hello or check in, see how the family is doing, that kind of thing. And at the very top of this family tree, you have, starts with an I, great-great-grandma, and then little baby Coco. Coco, the great-grandma, just old as hell at this point. I mean, it's something where she is withered in her chair, barely says a word, is starting to lose it a little bit. You're not sure if it's, outright dementia, if it's amnesia, but that's inferred. And the great-great-grandpa, his photo, the face has been ripped off of the photo, so you can't tell who this is. And it, like, the whole family has held it against music and mariachis because he ran off and never came back. And so he is not part of the family. He's not part of the ofrenda. No one talks about him, that kind of thing, like just excommunicated entirely from their lives. So when Miguel comes about saying, he loves music, he wants to play, it's something that he keeps to himself. He knows better.
Goes poorly. Yeah.
So as one that's working in the shoe business, he's shining shoes like in the town square kind of thing. Specifically, it was for a mariachi who's encouraging him. He's like, hey, if you're gonna play, you have to perform for others. There's a talent show. Like, go sign up.
It's a big moment.
Yeah, seize your moment. That's a massive thing, not just for the mariachi, but it's something that is constantly repeated from Senor De La Cruz's media is seize your moment, seize the moment, very
Carpe
YOLO.
That diem, do the do.
Carpe that diem. And it kind of has Miguel torn because the family is so against music, he wants to pursue it. And in the midst of, kind of going about things, he ends up accidentally breaking the picture frame of great-great-grandma, great-great-grandpa, whose face we don't know. Again, torn asunder, so you don't get that. And great-grandma Coco. He ends up going into his, quiet, reserved space. He ends up seeing the photo. He takes a look at it, and he notices it's folded. And he unfolds it and recognizes the guitar. He looks up and he sees that it's the same guitar as Senor De La Cruz. And he loses it. He's so excited about it. He's like, oh my gosh, we know who great-great-grandpa is. It's Senor De La Cruz. So he just found out his pop culture icon god, this deified musician, is blood. He is family. So he goes to announce it, and the grandma does not take it very well. Great grandma is still very scarred. Like, it's something where she repeatedly is like, Papi, is it you? Have you come home? Again, she's very old, withered, senile, Grandma Coco. And while great grandma is still going through the rounds, regular grandma is kind of in charge of this family. When Miguel presents this evidence and that, I'm gonna go perform at the talent show, she takes his guitar, smashes it to smithereens, is like, no, family's most important. Leave this music thing behind. Miguel takes off. He runs away. He's over it. If you guys don't understand, I'm gonna pursue this anyway. 'Cause frankly, you don't care about me. You don't care about music. I'm not in this family. I basically have already been excommunicated just by proxy. Is that true? No, the family does love him. But
it's very, very, is a bit of a,
it's one of those lines that he's offended. End of story.
I was offended. Damn it.
Yeah. So Miguel takes off. He goes to the talent competition and he needs an instrument. He's trying to borrow one so he can sign up. It's not working.
And not bidding.
So he goes the extra mile. He goes to the mausoleum.
Yeah, the shrine.
The shrine of Senor De La Cruz. He breaks in because hoisted on the wall, there is the grand
Axis
guitar. He rushes up. He grabs the guitar. He apologizes profusely because he's like, look, Grandpa, great grandpa, I need it. I need to play it for the talent show. I'll bring it back.
Chill, don't worry.
Strums the guitar. And we see the pedals like raise up a little bit. And, he ducks in cover. People are like, oh my gosh, the guitar, it's no longer on the wall. Someone broke in. It's still. So they start bursting in. They don't seem to notice him. And one guy walks through Miguel.
What he didn't know is actually the guitar of Sauron.
Not quite, but what ends up happening is Miguel runs out of the room. Now noticing that he's not he's not feeling people. He's walking right through them, full Danny Phantom kind of mode. And when he goes out into the rest of the cemetery as everyone's celebrating Dia De Los Muertos, suddenly he is seeing all of these spirit skeletons everywhere that otherwise he would not have noticed. From there, he starts running into older family members that have since passed. So it's like his great aunt and like his uncles and his grandpa and so on and so forth. And all of them are like, Miguel, what the hell are you doing here? Wait, you can see us? How come you can see us? Why can you see us? This is not good. So they end up crossing this great bridge of these rose petals, that again, kind of guide the way to and from the spirit world and the physical world. Yep. When they arrive in the world of the afterlife, it's really funny because there's like a full border crossing. Now, this might be, a questionable inclusion is how I felt. I felt like it was maybe politically incorrect to have a border crossing for like with Hector trying to like break it across the border. I was like, this feels like commentary on illegal immigration.
There is an interesting thing with that because that actually is a big part of like death in Mexican society is the actual like you actually have to make a journey to the afterlife. Yeah. So depending on like how you live will depend on how hard that journey is. So like if you're a very bad person, you'll literally have to walk for, I think they say it like, I think it's like multiple hundreds of years. And that's kind of their purgatory essentially before you can actually get there. But if you're good, there's like a boat in some story. There's lots of different ways they'll actually do it. It's
kind of like, in Greek mythology, the river Styx kind of.
Yeah, but like it scales to like what kind of person you are. It's not just everybody's. So I think they might have been going something like that, but I don't disagree because I was kind of like,
yeah.
If you do want to know more about that, Grim Fandango, great point and click game, handles a lot better.
Fair. So, that was something where I was like,
but yeah, I was kind of like, I don't know.
A little questionable.
I don't think it was like outright offensive, but it's one of those things that I probably wouldn't have done myself just because it's like,
we're starting to get into that gray territory.
Yeah, I'm like, that wasn't a great one.
So, the family returns from their trip. They get to the border patrol and, they're like, anything of note? And they're like, yeah, we have a living kid here. Meanwhile, like 3 stalls down, there's someone like, it is I, Frida Kahlo. I'm here to go and see my ofrenda. And the border person is just like, I know it's you, Hector, you old scoundrel.
Scallywag.
Yeah, you old scallywag. It's illegal to have a fake unibrow. And he's like, wait, that's illegal? at one point in the film. So he gets kicked back into the spirit world. They end up going to like an accountant or a customs agent or however you want to phrase it. They go to somebody official. The whole family's there. And Imelda, that's the great grandma Imelda, I think. I'm pretty sure.
I'll give you that.
I'm 90%
with sure. Names, so I got Miguel, Hector, and Coco.
There's a lot.
That's what I got.
So they speak with somebody that supposedly knows how to fix Miguel's issue of being a living person in the afterlife. And he says, hey, here's the deal. The rose petals, they guide our way home. You're cursed right now, but hey, if you receive your family's blessing, you agree to the terms, you can make your way back, all hunky-dory.
And he is cursed for taking the guitar from the
from grave. From De La Cruz's. Yeah, exactly. So he stole the guitar, wasn't his. Now, when the flower petal is handed to his great-great-grandma, again, he has to abide by the conditions of the blessing. This is the part where Miguel is not on board. The conditions presented are, you are to go home, you are to stop playing music. And he's like, okay, look, I hear you, but I love music. So no. I'm gonna go find great-great-grandpa. I found out that's Senor de la Cruz. He's a musician. He's on board. He can get me out, and I can still play music. So that's what I'm gonna do.
And he's still just as big a deal down in the land of the dead.
Yeah. Which, there is a fallback, example of you gotta follow the conditions, just quick. He goes, all right, yeah, sure, I accept your conditions. He goes to pick up the guitar, immediately transports back to the spirit world, and his whole family is like, dude, yeah, you were there 3 seconds and you already lied to your family. What the hell, man? So at that point, jig is up. He's like, okay, you know what? I'm going for De La Cruz. I don't accept your terms. Y'all suck. I'm out. So following that, what ends up happening is, the great pursuit of trying to find De La Cruz, being a living person in the land of the dead. He's got his hood up. He's trying to hide from guards and stuff. There's security people everywhere. The world of the dead is very crazy, hectic metropolis, New York City kind of thing. It's all over the place. There's tons of people. He ends up bumping into somebody named Hector. Now, Hector was the person that was trying to, get his way out of the spirit world.
The issue for him is he doesn't have a frienda,
yeah.
And because people don't remember him. So when you're not remembered, you can't go back over the bridge, which was why he couldn't go.
Almost. So the ofrenda is the way it's what gives you your path to get to and from the spirit world. However, if it's something where you're forgotten, you get a final death. Right now, he's remembered, but he's starting to be forgotten. So it's almost like you're getting sick or you're dying in the afterlife. And with not being on the ofrenda, he's not allowed to leave the spirit world to go see his family and that kind of thing. And that's what he wants to do. That's his whole thing. He's like, dude, I want to see my daughter. I don't have a picture of me on any ofrenda. They're starting to forget me. I want to get that moment so I can see how she's doing, before I end up being forgotten and am dead, gone for good. And what ends up happening is, he strikes a deal with Miguel. He goes, hey, first he's trying to, barter his way from, whatever police agent. He's like, hey, I got tickets to De La Cruz. I know the guy. Haha. Miguel overhears this and is just like, you got De La Cruz? So what ends up happening is he strikes a deal. He's like, all right, I'll take you to De La Cruz, but the counterpoint, here's my photo. You got to put me on the ofrenda so I can go out from the spirit world into the physical world. I want to see my daughter. We got a deal? Yes. Cool. They make their way kind of through the slums first. That's how we end up seeing the second death. Cause, when you're dealing with an afterlife, you still have to have stakes, is the way that I kind of read that scene a little bit. And, we watch as a grandpa of some sorts is truly forgotten and just full Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi disappears.
Double death.
The double death. Hector explains, once you're forgotten, you're properly dead for good, which I actually think, thematically, that's a great explanation of a second death.
And there is a phrase that it's you die twice, once when you die and once the last time someone says your name.
Yeah. It's very poetic in that sense. I really like that. How much of that's ingrained in the culture? Again, I'm freaking white as hell. I don't know. But either way, really liked that kind of inclusion in the film. I thought it was really nice and a great way to illustrate there are still stakes even in the afterlife. So Miguel and him end up going to a talent show in the afterlife. They do a great performance. This is his first time performing, so it's something where Hector like encourages him and says, "Hey, if you got to do this, you got to like freaking belt. You can't just surface level sing. You got to let it all out.
Use your diaphragm."
Pretty much, and
he actually has one.
Yeah, he's not a skeleton. Oh, and to make sure people don't, lose him or spot him as a living person, they paint his face in the traditional skeletal
Sugar Scully kind of look.
Yeah, exactly. So, following that, they end up going through, okay, let's go through the songs of Senor De La Cruz. What'll make me win this talent show? And, they end up, performing together. They skip like the most popular one that everybody is singing, and end up doing their own, lesser known, but still very popular De La Cruz song.
Instead of Let It Go, they go, people are better than reindeer.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's the vibe. And, after, frankly, just crushing it, they nail the competition. They don't end up winning. I wasn't sure if it's explicitly stated that they didn't win or did they not get to accept the win. But later we find out that there's like a full like band that ended up winning the competition. They have
America's Got Talent curse.
Basically, they ended up having to bail early because the rest of the family shows up. And at this point,
Miguel at the moment.
Oh yeah. So at this point, it becomes this back and forth of Hector and Miguel saying, "You lied to me. Well, you lied to me. Well, you lied to me. Well, you lied to me."
Donkey.
Because the Shrek 2 coming in clutch. Miguel said there's no other family besides De La Cruz that can send him back. He clearly has other family. Meanwhile, Hector's like, "Dude, you said you're going to take my photo." And Miguel goes, "Well, you said you knew De La Cruz, and here we are trying to go into a talent competition to do it when you should just know De La Cruz and be like super tight with him. You should be able to just like walk us in." And he's like, "Okay, you got me there, but take my photo." Also, like, the family right there. And Miguel says, "No, thanks. I'm after De La Cruz. Peace out, homie." Runs off. Sneaks into De La Cruz's tower party proper by himself, just by
absolute rogue.
Being a bro. Like, he tries to walk in and says, "I'm his great-great-grandson." Gets kicked out by the bouncer, sees the other, like, winners and goes, "Hey, can you guys do me a favor?" One musician to another gets shoved into a tuba, which I thought was really funny. Just blown out. "Oh, thanks, guys." Runs off with the guitar. Just off he goes. Hector still following him because at this point,
he's a little creepy, to be honest.
At this point, he's still trying to get that photo onto the ofrenda, whatever it takes. Like, "Miguel, you're the only, like, living creature that can do this for me. Please take the photo so that I don't get forgotten. I feel it in my bones. I don't want to die.
But way worse."
Yeah. So he sneaks into the party dressed as Frida Kahlo. It all comes back.
The whole thing.
It's pretty great. So, in the party, at some point, Miguel goes, "If I'm gonna get his attention, if I'm gonna get Senor De La Cruz's attention, I gotta do it through song." So he goes up to the highest point of the balcony and just starts singing along. He manages to get everybody's attention and falls into the pool. Oh no. Senor De La Cruz, being just the coolest pop star, superstar, musician guy, like dives in, drags him out and goes, he sees his makeup running off his face and goes, "Oh my gosh, you're the living kid. You're the entire talk of the night. You are super cool." And Miguel's like, "Dude, you know me?" He's like, "Yeah, of course I do. Who doesn't?" "Why?" He's like, "Because you're my granddad. Like, I'm your great-great-grandson. Like, we're family." He's like, "I have a great-great-grandson? well, how about that? And, you know, he goes like full, what is it? How it should have ended with Darth Vader and the whole, I have a son? Hey, did you hear? I'm a dad. Like, that's the kind of vibe that you get with Senior De La Cruz. So they spend the vast majority of the night just partying it up. He's showing everybody. He's like, check out my great-great-grandson. Isn't he great? My great-great-grandson. Look at him. Like, just fully, just soaking up the clout of having a living great-great-grandson here in the afterlife, where no one has really seen a living person here before. It's the whole shebang.
Talk of the town, the deed of the bees.
So the night starts dying down. Everybody has kind of left the party because they're ready for like the finale concert. It's at this big, massive venue. They are ready to rock and roll. Frida Kahlo is like setting up the art presentation, stage, what have you. It's a whole event. So he's like, hey, Miguel, I've loved our time together. You gotta come with me to this. You know, I'm playing the send off at sunrise. It's gonna be great. Problem is Miguel being cursed. He's got a time limit. It's the classic Disney midnight thing, except in reverse. It's sunrise. You're forever dead. And we've been slowly seeing Miguel turning into an actual skeleton. Yeah. So his fingers are starting to become translucent. Then, walks in a skeleton dressed as a woman. Oh, it's not Frida Kahlo. It's Hector. Hector is just like, hey, Miguel, you made a promise to me. Like, can you please? I'm literally double dying here.
You know how I feel.
Like, like my guy, please take this photo. Like, please just take it and put it on your ofrenda so that at the very least I'm not forgotten, but I can make my way back so I can say hi to my daughter. And Senor De La Cruz goes, Hector? And Hector goes, hi. This is all a little awkward. Hey, you said that nobody would forget me, but people would forget me. What's the deal here, bro? And I forget what the exact line of dialogue is, but Senor De La Cruz and Hector have this exchange where it's like the world will never forget you, amigo, like to the world and back, something like that. And at that point, Miguel goes, wait, like in the movie? Hector, what do you mean in the movie? It's in the movie. It happens right before he poisons him, and there's like a whole fight and everything. And Hector goes, before he poisons him, hold on. This was a conversation we actually had.
It actually happened.
And we get a flashback of him being like, I wrote songs with him. Like, we were a traveling duo. It was a whole thing.
He was the songwriter.
I thought that I had just a really bad stroke of luck, and De La Cruz, like, said, hey, you know, before I go back home, because I wanted to be with my family, you know, I had my girl, I had my daughter, I wanted to go back. He, you know, had a toast. We drank. My stomach felt terrible. I fell over in the street and died. And it all clicks that Hector was poisoned by Senor De La Cruz.
He stole his songs, then he stole his guitars.
He stole everything from him and became this world-renowned success story.
And made a movie where he did that whole plot line.
Where he literally,
with his, man,
inadvertently admits that he murdered his friend. So, at that point, De La Cruz is like, bruh. Calls in security, escorts Hector out of the building, and then he just kind of looks back at Miguel and he's like, you don't actually believe that I, like, poisoned and murdered him, right? Because, like, you know, reputation's kind of important to me. And Miguel gives the most convincing answer of being like, no, I don't believe you're a murderer. And De La Cruz just kind of stone faces and goes, security, take him too. And Miguel's like, wait, no, I'm gonna die. I knocked over a thing. I'm literally gonna die. Please, no. Miguel and Hector are thrown into a very large cavern with water and sand. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a private island bubble. It's kind of convenient that
like a purgatory thingy deal.
Yeah. So
might be more about that in the folklore. I just don't know.
Yeah, over our white heads. So what ends up happening is Miguel and Hector have a little bit of a heart-to-heart. Hector's like, look, kid, I'm being forgotten. I'm properly dying. I'm going to like the final world. That's the end of it. There's nothing left for me. Like, this is so bad. And Miguel's like, I'm so sorry. Like, it's terrible. Why do you, like, besides, you know, going on to the afterlife, why do you want to be on the ofrenda so bad? Why do you want to go back to the physical world? He's like, I've been telling you, I want to see my daughter Coco. And he goes, what? Your daughter Coco? Like my great grandma Coco? And he goes, oh, so they realize, oh my gosh, Hector's been his actual great grandpa the whole time. And he's like, you're not like mad at me about it. And he's like, dude, you are a total upgrade. I thought I was related to Senor De La Cruz, that murderer. Like, we are in it. We are totally one-on-one.
Murder
we
bar.
got this. And, somewhere in this conversation, Hector mentions that he just wanted to, he sang a song to Coco before he left called Remember Me. He wrote it especially for her so that even though he was going to be gone for a little bit, he would come back and that she would remember him by
the song.
And the song Remember Me is the most popular De La Cruz song. And he's like, yeah, I didn't write it for him. I didn't write it for the world. I wrote it for Coco. That's where this whole revelation comes about. And in the background, we've had a number of fun spirit animal scene montage pieces where the rest of the family that try to give the no music condition has been following on the wings of or on the back of a winged jaguar, just cruising through full
flying
it's cool.
out from WoW.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's very cool. It's very pretty. They track down Miguel to this little chamber pit hole thing. And they manage to get them all out. Hector has a very awkward interaction with, I already forgot her name. You know, for a movie with the plot of don't forget people, I am doing terribly.
I'm bad with names. It's gonna suck for all my relatives.
Did I say Imelda? Is that it?
Sure.
I think it's Imelda.
Yes.
So great grandma Imelda and great grandpa Hector have a very awkward, hey, great grandma Imelda, great grandpa Hector, whatever. So Hector's like, hey, and Miguel like fully goes to bat for him. He's like, dude, no, he didn't just run away. Like, he was poisoned. He tried to come back. And great grandma Imelda's like, I had a child and you left. You're still a dick. Completely justified, I will say, in some small part. But, there was also, sorry, we're just going to rewind a little bit. Great grandma Imelda also likes music, so she does understand Miguel a little bit because she was a singer, and the way that your great grandpa would play music and write songs resonated on a whole nother level. So music does truly run deep in the family, but she had to leave it behind. She had family to take care of, whereas Hector left and wanted to come back, but was cut short of that endeavor. So with that bridge somewhat repaired, we get like very passive aggressive, you're the love of my life or whatever kind of dialogue back and forth as they like squabble, but they're still on the same side of, we got to get Miguel home before sunrise.
Hector's like, I died, but
yeah. And more importantly, cause they could just send him back right then and there. However, Miguel makes a very good point. even though Hector messed up, even though he was kind of a jerk in some ways, he is still part of the family. He may not deserve to be forgiven, but he doesn't deserve to be forgotten, which I think is a very great line of dialogue, like 10 out of 10. So they all hop on the giant jaguar and they are headed off to go hunt down Senor De La Cruz, who at this point has the photo. He took it off of Hector in the midst of their conversation at the finale performance. How are they going to get in? They go under the guise with Frida Kahlo as like a real homie to them, which is it's very fun. So they're all like stage performers behind the scenes. They're like, oh my gosh, how are we going to find De La Cruz in this whole mess? Oh, he's right down the hall. They start chasing after him. Security gets involved. The like uncles start like just
It's a big Benny Hill moment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So in the midst of all this fighting back and forth, great grandma Imelda ends up like getting Hector's photo and is on the raising platform going up onto the main stage. She ends up singing. Hector's playing guitar. Senor De La Cruz gets on, and all of the security guys are like trying to like choreograph, and also it's kind of like the scene in Moulin Rouge where there's the security guy trying to like actively murk the thing.
Yeah, acting like it's part of the show.
Yeah, exactly. So very similar vibe with that. Senor De La Cruz is able to like get the photo again. Not quite close curtains, but they go behind scenes again. And at this point, they're like on the very edge of the theater precipice. And looking over, it's just full fall all the way down. And we have the cliche, the trope of Senor De La Cruz thinking this is a private conversation. Some of the family members, like there's camera equipment there. Again, this is kind of like a New York City type vibe. At a like big stadium event, ends up pointing one of the cameras at Senor De La Cruz as he gives this back and forth speech about like taking the music, and
it was me. I did it all.
I had the
genius.
Yeah, I seized my moment. And then he like picks up Miguel and just yeets him off the edge. Everyone that is sitting in the stadium audience is, you bastard. And he ends up tearing Hector's photo, going out on stage, and he's about to like continue the show, and everyone is mad as hell at him. Everyone's watching the camera where Miguel has just been thrown from the cliff. He's just falling to his death. Not relevant to the plot, in my opinion. There is a dog that has been in this whole thing. He's a homeless dog. Turns out that he's also a spirit animal. They come in many forms. Tries to save Miguel, doesn't save Miguel because he sucks. It's just there. I don't know if I'm missing something.
Payoff?
Yeah.
I guess.
Is that he's also a spirit dog and has wings. I don't know. The jaguar saves Miguel. Let's go. Cats rule. So everyone in the stadium cheers and celebrates and woo, yeah! Super big celebrating, blah, blah, blah. However, Hector, not looking so good, still being forgotten, is like full on just dying on the ground. You get like a little spirit yellow outline every time that he's like, oh god, oh, it hurts. I'm fading here. I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark. So at this point, both of them grab both him, Hector, and great-great-grandma Imelda grab the rose petal. They look over at Miguel and they're just like, look, the sun is actively coming up. You're leaving now. You have our blessing. No conditions. Get the hell out of here. He transports. He wakes up. He's on the floor of Senor De La Cruz's mausoleum thing, crypt, what have you. The guitar's still on the ground, and he's like, oh my gosh, I gotta make sure Coco doesn't forget him. Grabs the guitar, but just freaking legs it 10 million miles an hour just to run back to the family. It's something where the grandma is just like, oh my gosh, I am so mad at you. Like, you went and you stole a guitar. You're doing musician stuff. What are you doing? And, they follow him into the room where Coco is sitting. Again, great grandma Coco, old, withered, easily like 90 plus.
Yeah.
Just chilling, still as a statue.
Chilling.
And Miguel runs in, super emotional, just tears, like, hey, great grandpa Hector, you remember great grandpa Hector? You know, he said he'd be back. He sang to you before he left. You know, your papa's gonna, he loves you. He always just loved you. Like, he always wanted to come back, but he couldn't. He just couldn't do it. You do remember the song, Remember Me. Very cute. Very emotionally packed. And Coco, who has been borderline non-responsive this entire movie.
Catatonic.
Very catatonic, yeah. It's a great way to put it. Like, has a little bit of spark of life. You know, she starts singing along with Miguel. The whole family has like walked in the room, is just like awestruck by the moment. And she reaches over to the nightstand. Again, her fingers are just like super withered and whatnot. Pulls out just all sorts of stuff and goes, I have all of his letters he used to write me while he was away, and I never forgot him. And here's his photo, and it's his face.
Ripped out part.
Yep, it's the little piece of the ofrenda. She was
able to save.
Yep. So, 1 year later, like exactly that. We return back to the ofrenda. Oh, wait, Miguel's mom is pregnant. Forgot about that. So he's explaining the importance of family and the ofrenda to his little baby sister, and they put up Coco's photo as one of the many on the ofrenda. And at this point, we end up getting the happy ending for everybody involved. Even though someone has died, everybody is having a party in the living world. In the spirit world, we get to see Hector and Coco ends up reuniting with them. One of the things that Hector said is like, dude, if I like didn't get the chance to cross over to see her in life, I wish I just wanted to make sure I was here in death. In death, they get to reunite. They have a big hug. And from there, they cross on over and everybody's having a party. The living people are there properly with Miguel strumming, singing along the whole 9 yards. Meanwhile, for the afterlife folks are there just kind of as ghostly in the background, with Hector also strumming low key, doing like a back to back, kind of like they did when they had their talent show. Happy ever after. Oh, there's a cat. There's also the cat. So the jaguar spirit animal is just like a regular old house cat. Just walks alongside with the dog. So that's Coco. That's the plot. Again, it's a very sweet film. I really do like the message of family and that family is most important and whatnot. I do have some problems with it that I don't think ruin the film, but I think hold the film back. One of those is I'll just say, for me personally, the premise of like no music it's
a little ridiculous. Like they do a lot of things
from
to
a
keep
loving family
driving the action, but it's not even like I can understand if people are like, oh yeah, I don't want you to do that as your whole and only means of income, but like the like no music, like it is like, this is going to sound ironic, but it is like cartoonishly like
mean,
portrayed. It's just like, it's a little ridiculous.
It's the idea that your great great grandma in the afterlife is willing to let you die if you
also
play
like
music.
Is Miguel like? It's not like Miguel's just gonna turn into a bad person because he plays guitar. Like, what do you think of your grandson? Like, geez, give the kid a try. It's an evil vocation. You don't become lawful evil as a musician.
And even if it's not necessarily, let's say, great great grandma's, as he dies, falls over. I poisoned him. Haha. No. Even if it's not.
I'm just gonna keep dying.
Even if it's not great great grandma's mission endeavor that he can't play music, you would think at least one of the multiple other family members would be willing to cave on that.
That's my thing. I'm like,
now I will say,
I get we have to push the action, but like,
I will say this may be a little bit of, I don't want to say culture shock. That's not the right word, but maybe the importance of like the matriarchy aspect of it, or like the honoring your ancestors comes in a little bit. Like,
there's
even in the
lot
afterlife,
of cultural differences where I'm like, that's great, but I guess like that's your thing.
To me, it does feel a little bit forced as far as make the plot happen. Now, in terms of how this movie handles the theme of family is the utmost importance, I mean, we listed a bunch of different things. For Dia De Los Muertos in particular, we mentioned Book of Life. You enjoyed that movie more. I have not seen it, so I don't have that as a baseline, but we do have some other movies where it's also Disney / Pixar, more cultural specific, but it's that same core trope tenet of family above all else. The kid is trying to like do their own thing and push back against their culture of what it is. So one example that came out about 5 years before Coco was Brave. And in Brave's sense, while it's, family is important and whatnot, the culture pushback was, hey, you're a princess. We got to marry off.
You got to be proper
for clan unity purposes. It's much more, we're honoring this tradition and we're going to make it so that it's like a political thing, and
you can't do your thing,
and you don't get independence because you're a woman. And that was that like rub against, but ultimately family matters and let them be them, but they're still family. And then the other example, which is much more recent, is Encanto, which I think just hit it out of the park. I loved that movie. Like, I think it's something that, to me, Coco almost feels like a test run of Encanto. Almost. It's the same kind of like family comes first, but you're kind of dealing with that pushback and almost generational trauma type of idea. You have the wide cast of characters that are part of the family. It's just in this one, a massive part of it is you can't forget them. And other than Hector and Miguel, it's really hard to remember any of the others in this, and Coco. I mean, Coco's the name of the game here. Yeah. Like, those are your three. So that was something that ironically is kind of working against the movie, is don't forget any of them. And they're somewhat forgettable. Like the aunt, the grandpa, the two uncles. I remember the dead people more than I remember the living people, if that says anything. And his mom and dad are his mom and dad. Like, he has siblings. He has multiple siblings. Don't know their names. I just know one of them kind of sucks at shoemaking. Like,
they serve as like background world stuff, but
yeah,
they're not like bona fide characters in and of themselves.
Yeah, and their contributions to the plot are minimal at best.
Primarily.
Yeah, and that's something that I think holds this film back in some regards, especially given the theme of the sub theme grand theme is about family and the importance of family. The sub theme of, even if they're not worth forgiving, is it worth forgetting them? Making sure that you remember those that came before, honoring your heritage and ancestry. And
that's kind of where I run into my issue with it. Is it's like there's a lot of people with different relations in their family, and I think some of this stuff it almost reminds me of the whole Thanos and Gamora thing, where it's like you're kind of almost justifying some poor behaviors depending on people's situation. And I'm not trying to say you can sit out here and make a movie for everybody, but it is one of those, like, the whole, like, maybe he shouldn't be forgiven, but maybe he shouldn't be forgotten. Like,
yeah,
that was one I didn't really, I was like, like, in Hector's case, sure, but
yeah, I think a great example would be Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, where they absolutely could have been like, hey, yes, you may be related in family, but found family is more important. What they didn't do was that, but they absolutely could have and should have, because Palpatine, not great family. Spoiler for a movie I hate. So
and like, I have a great relationship with my family. I'm not trying to say like,
yeah,
but I understand that that's a privilege I have that some people don't. And they've had to do a lot of other things to find where they're supposed to be. So it is one of those things where, like, I don't think they were going out of their way to be traumatic or anything like but I do think that was one of my bigger issues with it.
Yeah. And, the other thing is it's convenient, I would say, that the core antagonizing aspect of this film is the music or not music. And, that kind of ends up shifting the focus, the theme, that core back and forth thing. I mean, it's something where that family as a whole has had that, like, ingrained in them since day one kind of thing. And to have it so it's just, oh, that's the bad guy, it takes a lot of weight out of it for me. I feel like that's something where Encanto, like, I will say one of the problems of Encanto is the fact that the timetable is a little convenient, but
yeah,
it's
at some level, it's a movie.
Yeah,
like,
you have to make some concessions.
We're gonna be here for 6 hours, if not,
Yeah, and in Encanto's case, it's something where they deal with it in a very, like, constructive, healthy manner of, you guys are just not understanding each other, and you got to start there. And
both
that's something
sides need to kind of reach that gap.
Yeah, and sometimes it's coming from one side more than the other, and sometimes
Miguel
you don't
does
even
not act
realize
appropriately at any point. But, like, he's a kid.
Yeah.
And these are grown adults who are also being very
steadfast, headstrong, too stubborn for their own good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that I think Encanto manages to at least cross that bridge. Because again, I really do feel like this movie is almost like a test run for the better version Encanto, which is very funny, given that this is Pixar and that's Disney. Like, one of the things I wrestled with is how much of this movie is kind of the transition of Pixar people getting, like, swept up into Disney things and thrown into Disney animation. How true is it? I'm not sure. I mean, going down the list, it's like, okay, yeah, Pixar still has just banger movies before and after Coco and the acquisition by Disney. So it's not a full, like, one-to-one case, but it feels like it. I don't know. It might also just be, man, Pixar only hit home runs, and now some of them are home runs, some of them are good, some of them are not.
You've got your souls, but sometimes you have your good dinosaurs.
You have your Cars 2s.
That's the thing, like, after Cars 1, I don't remember the difference between Cars 2 and 3. I've seen them.
My brain goes, Cars 1 and Cars 3 are very similar, but we switch who's in what place. Cars 2, international spy thing, what? Hold on, wait.
Okay, that's 2.
Yeah, that's 2. That's how I remember it, is that's the weird one, and then Cars 1, Cars 3.
Because 3 is where McQueen becomes the... Anyways, this is...
Yeah, McQueen is a Hornet?
Anyways,
Blue Hornet?
Coco.
Was that it? Anyway.
The Coco.
I'm in love with the Coco.
Coco.
That,
Cow.
Maybe we shouldn't sing that. That sounds weirder. That just sounds like we're in love with great grandma. So,
age is a number.
So,
love who I want.
That that's something where the theme of family, it's a tried and true trope theme concept. This is like another remix of it. And I think it's a very worthy addition. Let me throw that out there. Like, if it's something where Dia De Los Muertos is your holiday, I think this is totally in that ballpark. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, you have your Christmas movies, you have like 5 in a row. Some of them you like better than others. I think this is in that same realm, just with Dia De Los Muertos. Or if you want to say Halloween, I try to not like cross those over as the same holiday, because I feel like culturally speaking, that should be kept
we
separate.
could have such a long conversation about this. Like, anyways,
and I'm limited in my perspective, and I acknowledge that. But yeah, that's something. Another thing that I think is weird is Coco is actively forgetting her grandpa. I say actively, passively forgetting her grandpa just through the tests of time and possibly dementia.
Mine's the first thing to go.
Yeah, and there's a part of me that feels like you could take away that music's almost like a cure-all for a dementia amnesia thing. That could be taken away if you're pretty limited in how you look at it.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that's a great message. However, and this is why I feel so weird about it, and we're getting personal here. My grandpa, he ended up taking his own life, but when he was in the hospital, cause he was still kept alive, he still had life signs, and one of the things that I didn't get to directly witness it, but I did get to have a phone call. I would have been 14 at the time. I was a little young. It was traumatic. It was rough, but one of the most striking things is that, even in his state, it was something where his life signs would spike or, would react would probably be the better way to phrase it, when we had a friend of the family, Brad, who came in and was playing guitar next to his bedside, or when I was talking with him over the phone, he would react with it. And that's something that it completely makes sense that Miguel singing and playing Remember Me, the song from way back when, would strike a different chord with Coco. And maybe that's something that, because everyone went no music, that
it was
became like a way
compounding issue.
Yeah. So
I will say
I'm a little torn on that. It's weird, but it's because I have this personal thing.
It certainly cannot hurt. Is it going to all of a sudden make them different, whatever? But it is a helpful thing, because that is something that interaction, constant, consistent interaction, I know is like a key to that, and playing music for him is just so. Yeah. So, but I do agree with your overall.
Yeah. It's a weird tear, because I'm like, okay, on one hand, I don't know how.
It's important though. You got to be careful about kind of what you
put out there.
Yeah, it can have some real effects on people. So like, but it's not a condemnation of the movie overall.
No,
obviously.
No, it's still a very good movie. It's still worth the watch. Again, for me, I think it's something where, if it happens to be on, I'm happy to rewatch it. If the event happens to be correct for the time frame or whatever, like we're putting on a Dia De Los Muertos party, let's put on Coco. There's no harm in it. Very, very fun, very wholesome.
If I were going to Blockbuster, I personally wouldn't rent it again, but
if
Blockbuster doesn't exist anymore, so.
If it was one of those things where, like, back in the day, you had the, like, Blockbuster pass, you could just, like, walk out with 5 movies, no kind of
it would
thing.
just be in the stack.
It just happens to be in it. You don't seek out Coco, it's just a,
but I mean, hey, if you're just a big fan of, like, animation, it's a beautiful looking movie, like.
So cool. It's so great.
Worst comes to worst.
I'm such a sucker for neon. It's gross.
And all the
how
stuff
much
with
I
the
like
pedals
it.
and everything, like.
Oh, it's so
It's a lot
pretty.
like Pocahontas. I don't like that movie a whole lot, but just staring at it and listening to it is such a great experience.
The like blues and red
Yeah.
contrasts and
That old oak tree lady.
yeah. Politically correct? No. But
Oh god, yeah.
wow, it was very pretty. I'll also say I think there's more bangers as far as the music in Pocahontas. That's my opinion, but that might just be nostalgia. I mean, I heard it when I was a kid, and boy howdy, Colors of the Wind still like
This is
drilled into my brain. Same with Savages. Really not politically correct, but that's kind of the point because they're butting heads there. So maybe this movie is just Jordan Feels White Guilt, the movie. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Coco. Do we have any other thoughts? It's good. It's good.
Solid 7. Out of what? I'm not going to.
I don't want to start setting precedents of.
Oh no, there's no scale.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say 7.
I'm just not saying a number.
And then in a week, when we do the next one, it's going to be like 20, 29. Out of what?
We'll find out. Well, that said, tune in next week. You can see both of us here. Narratives of Nonsense. We post Mondays, mostly weekly. And where do we check you out in particular?
Well, really, here. There's a channel that exists that I'm sure will be in the description.
The doobly-doo.
And then
That
you can click
ancient
on
term.
that. But yeah.
And then if you want to see me, Gillidan for the win, sometimes I stream. We're taking a little bit of a hiatus between just the chaos of life and things, but I will return with some Kingdom Hearts. That's the latest that we've been playing. It's my buddy John and I. On occasion, we like hang out on Tuesdays. We might stream there. And yeah, lots of fun, lots of happiness. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. If you're here in the States or you're celebrating, happy Thanksgiving on Thursday, among all of our other fun holidays for today in particular. Fade to black. Ooh.